Today I made a mistake by allowing my troubled family back into my life. They are unaware that I won the lottery several years ago. For context, I am the youngest child in a family of 5 siblings who grew up in extreme poverty. My mother loved having children, but she didn't work, and my father didn't earn enough to support all of us. I remember being so poor that when I was 11 or 12, I was thrilled to receive a simple plastic spring. Growing up in this family dynamic was incredibly difficult. My parents divorced, and although my father lived nearby, he didn't do much to be an active father. His only significant contribution was financial, when legally necessary. He confessed once that he never wanted to have children, he just loved my mother, who wanted to have a family. Our home life was precarious even before the divorce. When I was 5 years old, I helped repair plaster walls, because we only had money to live in houses in terrible condition. I remember scraping off the paint with a scraper and a putty knife when I was around 6 or 7. I recently discovered that the house was painted with lead, which exposed my family to toxic hazards. My older siblings performed even more household chores and likely inhaled toxic substances, compounding our parents' emotional abuse. My older brother faced anger issues, being kicked out of college for fighting and having encounters with the police for crimes involving theft and violence. My older sister struggled with substance abuse and also had trouble with the law. Although she has improved somewhat since then, she is still a difficult person. My next brother settled for a job at a big chain store, where he might have gotten a management position. All 3 still live in the impoverished town where we grew up. My sister and I, old enough to understand that we needed to escape the poverty trap of our hometown, enlisted in the military. I joined the Army, while she joined the Navy, at about the same time. During our military service, we both discovered information about our siblings and parents that made it clear how dysfunctional our family was. It was like we had half a puzzle, with pieces that didn't make sense. When we put all the information together, we realized that the result was a painful sign that everyone in our family has serious problems. My sister confronted her family about this after her military contract ended and was dragged back into the drama. She moved to a nearby town, about an hour away, and started working there immediately. In turn, I cut all ties with them. I haven't spoken to most of them in years, and the few contacts I have are superficial and obligatory. After my military contract ended, I started college with the help of the GI Bill, which not only covered my tuition but also provided me with a monthly housing stipend. My family couldn't understand the meaning of this. I had sacrificed 4 years of my life on active duty and still had reserve obligations. Part of my body was permanently damaged due to these obligations. However, they only saw free education and did not understand the price I had paid for it. There was one advantage that came unexpectedly while I was in college. I was in the habit of buying a lottery ticket every month when GI Bill money came into my account. It was almost a superstition, because I never believed I would win anything. I remember a statistic that said men in California were more likely to become Brad Pitt than to win the lottery. However, during my last semester in college, I ended up winning the lottery. I didn't exactly make money, if you know what I mean, but I made an amount that allowed me to purchase a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house on a 0.36-acre lot in an area where real estate prices were below the national average. However, there was nothing left after that, and yes, I am specific because that is exactly what happened. I never told anyone in my family, including my cool older sister. Because as much as he loved her, he knew she would probably tell the rest of the family. I bought the house when I was 25 years old, 11 years ago. Since then, I got married, had a child, and enjoyed a comfortable and pleasant life. About a year ago, my older brother got a job near my town and expressed a desire to visit me to meet my daughter and catch up. Against my better judgment, I agreed as my wife was curious about my family, who she had never met before. My sister stayed with us for 3 days and we spent the time reminiscing and catching up. During dinner on the second night, she started asking questions about mortgages and rent, as she paid around 900 reais for rent on her house with no yard. My wife, not realizing my financial situation, made a mocking comment. My sister, despite her problems, was no fool and noticed the change in the tone of the conversation, which went from casual to serious. She asked me what was going on, and since I'm not good at lying, I froze, trying to find the words before my wife said something. I ended up confessing that I had used my winnings to buy the house. This triggered a series of questions that led my sister to discover that I had earned a considerable amount of money while I was in college, that I had my education paid for and even my rent paid, all without doing anything. She became extremely angry and left for a hotel about 2 hours later. Then the calls and messages from all my family members began, accusing me of hiding this gift from God from them, saying that I was interrupting their lives and that I could save the family from bankruptcy. However, they did not understand that there was nothing left. The pressure mounted, and they threatened to sue me for damages resulting from everything they considered wrong in our family. In fact, they finally recorded everything that could remotely warrant legal action, whether in small claims court or a more serious case. They even calculated an estimate of the money I've borrowed for gas since I started driving at 16, with verbal agreements to pay back later. Taking inflation and current fuel prices into account, everything they ordered together would be insufficient to buy another house in cash. I can share this now as I am about to turn 90 years old. Some of the claims were rejected because they were absolutely absurd and because they occurred at a time when I had no contact with them. Thank you for having phone and email records for the remaining 10. Of what they wanted, most of it happened when I was 17 or 18, like denting one of their cars or hurting them when I threw an empty beer bottle, leaving a permanent scar where the glass cut them. After court costs, attorney fees and compensation, I lost a little over $10,000 to my family. The stress of the legal battle had a profound impact on me. At work, when I found out I was being sued by my family after winning the lottery, my coworkers started asking me for financial help. The situation became so untenable that I requested a transfer to another branch where no one knew me. Now, I'm being forced to sell the house my daughter grew up in and move to a more expensive city. All of this happened by allowing my family back into my life. It's an incredible story where a person had to deal with incredibly toxic individuals. I completely understand why she cut these people out of her life and decided to follow her own path. You may think you have a perfect life, but that person's family has pulled you down. How far does someone's right go to try to claim someone else's property and money? This is a classic case of someone not wanting to put in the effort to change their own destiny and instead looking to someone who has managed to do so. It doesn't matter if it was because of lottery winnings, still, they worked hard to achieve what they have. They are living their lives and have done what they can to distance themselves from these toxic people. I'm sorry you had to go through this, and I hope you have the best of luck moving forward in a new city, away from these toxic, selfish people. As for my situation, you think it's strange that I want to take my doll to a festival. I'm 27 years old and I've been a puppeteer since high school. Before the pandemic, I was a regular at a local festival, accompanied by my partner, a Muppet-style monster, similar to Cookie Monster but on a larger scale. We made regular appearances at the festival for about 5 years running, interacting with visitors, talking to children, taking photos, and even featuring live bands. We've been doing this for so long and people know us and love us. The festival is returning for the first time since the start of the pandemic, and of course I want to take my doll. It will be the first time we have been in a crowd in at least 2 years. I was talking to my mom about this and saying how she planned to take my doll and continue with our little performance. She replied, "Why would you take a puppet to a festival?" I currently have a deep affection for my mother, but I must confess that she hurt my feelings deeply. I tried to explain to her that this activity has been part of my passion for years and has always been a fixed part of the event. However, she simply shut down and made comments like "that's weird" or "it looks weird." I felt deeply insulted and am now hesitant to bring my puppet to the festival, even though I know people will question its absence when they see me without it. Now, I'm starting to feel like this passion I have, that I'm passionate about, is actually something strange. No one asked me to bring my puppet, but after years of doing this, I feel a little uncomfortable not showing up with it, as I always have. I don't want to disappoint my audience, especially children. Sometimes I start to believe that my mother is right, and it makes me wonder how I can stop feeling this way. My friend, you are not weird. In fact, we need more weird people like you, with your puppets, going around festivals and bringing laughter and smiles to people. There's nothing wrong with being a puppeteer. If Jim Henson were here today, he would be saying the exact same thing. Jim Henson, for those who don't know, is the genius behind the Muppets. So go ahead, bring your Muppet, bring your little monster to the festival. Talk to everyone you meet and make them smile. The best part about this is that no one is asking you to do this, so they have no idea that it is exactly what they wanted. They wanted to see someone with a puppet, make some funny jokes and interact with people. After all, it's a festival, it's a party, and it's much better than showing up alone and disappointing those who hope to see you and your longtime companion. Clearly, there's something special behind this, and you've been doing this for years. Who cares what your mother thinks? Do what you love, don't let anyone dictate what you can or can't do. This is your art form, something you love, and other people will love too. In another story, an unbelievable situation happened in the 90s, spanning 2 years, when I was between 6 and 8 years old. The details are vague, as I remember this story through my parents' accounts. When I was 6, we were in my dad's car coming home from work or daycare, I can't remember exactly. I was fighting with my brother, who was about 10 years old at the time. We were in the backseat of a 2-door Mazda, and our fight continued while my father was stopped at a red light. He turned around to slap us, which was a common practice in those days to make us stop. However, his foot slipped off the brake, and we collided with the car in front of us. My father explained to us that my brother asked if we had hit something. Both cars stopped at a nearby shopping mall, and the woman in the other vehicle panicked, demanding an ambulance. When paramedics arrived, she insisted she needed a neck brace and a stretcher. My father soon realized the situation was getting complicated and decided to stay to make sure the police got the full story. He called the insurance company to report the accident, and they sent people the next day to take photos of the car and collect my father's statement. It wasn't long before we received notice of a $1 million lawsuit alleging that the woman had been permanently disabled as a result of the accident. Thus began a legal battle that dragged on for 2 long years, all because of a simple car accident. Although I don't have all the information, I remember my father used to complain about how his wife turned down the first settlement offer, which was about $30,000. She later refused the second offer of $50,000, claiming that she was a terrible person, greedy and a liar, and wished to take the case to court for a full hearing. At the time, my parents were separated, but as they were still married, they both hoped to receive some of the money if she won the case. I was too young to attend the hearing and I was promised it would be long and tedious, so I was placed in the care of a daycare center. My brother, on the other hand, had to attend, although he also found the hearing long and tedious. The surprise came when Karen stood up as a witness. She used a walker and a neck brace to get to the podium. In short, she claimed that she was innocently stopped at a red light when she looked in the rearview mirror and saw a large white truck quickly approaching her. She stated that she knew there was no way to stop in time and could only brace herself for the impact by praying that my parents would also brace themselves. Her lawyers showed her a set of photos of a blue 2-door Mazda and asked her if she recognized the car in the photographs. She denied it. The lawyers then presented the photographs to the judge and jury, explaining that this was the vehicle that had collided with Karen's car. The photos had been taken 24 hours after the accident. The jury reacted audibly when it became clear that Karen was fooling everyone. Not only did she not receive her $1 million, she also had to pay the legal fees, lost wages and daycare costs resulting from the lawsuit. That's how we got a free trip to Disney. Some people are truly amazing and will do anything to try and make money at the expense of others. Car accidents are, without a doubt, one of the biggest opportunities for this. Karen truly believed she could fool the judge and jury by pretending she was crippled for life and using a walker. It's ironic and wonderful that she was exposed in her own lie and forced to pay for all the baseless lies she tried to spread about this family. It's gratifying to see that the story ended in their favor. I hope they enjoyed their trip to Disney and that Karen learned an important lesson after freaking out at a dollar store when her kids stole something. Regarding my personal experience, I am an armed security officer at an outdoor mall. I once got a call from the manager of a dollar store where all items cost just $1. The manager reported that a minor had tried to steal something from the store and that the mother was causing a scene, with other children present. I quickly arrived at the store and went in, finding 8 children and an angry mother. The situation was getting out of control, so I raised my voice and said firmly, "Now, everyone be quiet." The mother, named Karen, turned around and scolded me for speaking loudly to her children. I apologized and explained that I hadn't been able to understand what was happening, asking her to kindly explain the situation to me. Over time, she began to change her attitude and explained that the store manager had accused her son of stealing. I looked at the manager, with whom I had been familiar for years, and asked him to confirm. He stated that yes, the child was holding a chocolate bar and a drink. I then turned to the mother and asked if she could ask her son to empty his pockets, but she refused. So, to try to resolve the situation in the best way possible, I asked her and the children to leave the store, thus avoiding further conflicts with the employees or the store. Honestly, this was a way to get them out of the store. When we were outside, I received a message from the manager on our service phone, which we carry, asking that they be banned from the store. This was already in my plans, but I decided to go a step further and ban them from the entire shopping complex. I had the necessary documentation with me and began filling out the no entry and trespassing notice for her. I asked for her name for my report and she gave it to me. I put this information in my report and in the no entry and trespass documentation. To clarify, I have an obligation to report this situation to property management, so I was not being dishonest with them. Afterwards, I gave her a copy of the trespassing and no entry notice, and she became extremely angry with me. She began to protest, saying that I didn't have the authority to do this and that she would call the police, and mentioned that her husband worked in the police department. I politely suggested that she make the call and that I would be happy to explain the situation when the officers arrived. She made the call, and about 10 minutes later, the police arrived with several officers. I explained to the sergeant what was happening, and he seemed surprised by the situation. He approached her and asked for her version of events. She started waving the paper I gave her in front of the police officer, claiming that it was illegal and that he couldn't do it. The officer examined the paper and then looked at her and, with a polite smile that barely hid a chuckle, said, "Ma'am, this is valid and in accordance with the law. You are prohibited from entering the property." She protested and asked how she would shop for her children, to which the officer replied that she would have to go to another mall, perhaps 45 minutes away. She huffed and called her husband, who soon arrived and discovered that he did, in fact, work for the police department. He talked to me, looked over the paperwork, and then looked at his wife and said, "I'll talk to you at home." She left crying with the children, and her husband shook my hand and apologized for the inconvenience. 2 weeks later, I received an award recognizing my company and the mall owners for how I handled the situation. The first thing that comes to mind after this story is, what did Karen really expect to happen? Her son got caught trying to steal from a dollar store, and that's the least of his problems. The police could have arrested them for theft, and she even tried to claim that her husband was a police officer. Even when he showed up, he confirmed that she was wrong. It's a shame that people often have to be confronted like this to learn that they are wrong. Karma works deliciously in moments like this. It's good to see the security guard doing his job and the husband admitting his mistake. Because there is no way that individual could have received an apology from that mother. She stole $32,000 from me to solve her own problems. When I was 8 years old, my mother opened a joint account with me, where I could deposit money, and she could do so too. At the time, I was very young and was never able to separate these accounts. I started saving money for college in 2017 after getting my first real job. All my money ended up in that joint account, where only she could see the balance. This gave me peace of mind, as I didn't want to know the value, to avoid the temptation to spend. I managed to save money for a whole year, about to start university, when I decided to check my account. To my surprise, there was less than $1,000 in it. After years of saving, all my money had been reduced to a mere $1,000. This meant that I would not have the resources to attend university, as my money ran out just before classes started. My mother claimed that the account had been hacked and that she would contact the bank to resolve the issue. However, after a meeting with the bank manager, it became clear that it was my mother who withdrew all the money from the account. This didn't happen all at once, but over the course of almost every day since my first paper route at age 14. In total, she stole $32,000. Her excuse was that since my girlfriend was living with us, she didn't have enough money to cover expenses. When I presented paper evidence that she had been stealing money long before her girlfriend arrived, she had nothing to say. My stepfather didn't care about the money either, as at least half of her bills were being paid. I haven't spoken to them in 2 years, and I don't think I ever will again. I wasted years of high school working full-time to save money for college, only to have it ripped away from me. This is a horrible situation. Imagine working so hard all through high school to save up for a college education, only for your mother to take it away from you without her knowledge. I can't believe this person wasn't following their own account. It is hard to understand. I have deep empathy for the author of the original story, and I don't blame him for cutting ties with his family after this. Thanks for watching and subscribing. Be sure to turn on notifications to keep following all the stories. Use the playlist at the top of the description to hear more exciting stories. Dear viewers of the HistoReddit channel, we hope you enjoyed this incredible collection of emotional stories we shared today. If you were moved by these reports or identified with any of them, don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any future content. Leave a like to show us your support and turn on the notification bell to receive alerts whenever we release a new story. Your interactions are essential for the growth of the channel and for us to continue bringing you fascinating stories. Thank you for being part of our HistoReddit community. Until the next video.